Yo, what is going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and today we have some leaked or rumored, I guess you can say, information regarding Call of Duty 2021. We are finally at that time of the year when this next game starts getting leaked a little bit here and there, and I assume we're going to get a reveal probably June or July. So last year was an exception. The reason why it was so much later had a few reasons. A, because, Warzone was doing so well, they didn't want to take away the attention from Warzone so soon. And also because of the pandemic that obviously shifted things around a little bit. So I do think this will be a reveal that'll be later than the normal like April, May reveal. But I don't think it will be as late as it was last year. So personally, I'm expecting a July, maybe late June reveal. Maybe at E3, maybe at Comic-Con. I have no idea. But let's talk about these rumors. So we have been hearing some rumors as of recently that it's going to be made by Sledgehammer Games as opposed to Infinity Ward, which is what we were all expecting. We all thought Sledgehammer Games was done. They were just going to be a support studio from now on. Maybe eventually in the future they'll make their own game. But no, actually, they've been working on a game apparently since they split off from their original project that they were working on for 2020, which Treyarch took over. Apparently they started working on their own project on top of that. So that's interesting. And we've been getting a lot of rumors the past few weeks about the era of the game, which is the thing most people are usually excited to hear about. There's been rumors of it being in World War III, there's been rumors of it being in the future, and it seems that the most reliable rumor that we have now is coming from the leaker known by Victor. Very, very reliable leaker, so I definitely would not take his information at all, lightly. He says, indirectly, but he says that it will be in the World War II era. So, this actually pissed off a lot of people, surprisingly, right? A lot of people are not happy about this. Now, of course, this is the Twitter community. This is less than 1% of the actual COD community. I'm sure if this game is revealed to be World War II, we're going to see a lot of excitement for it. There's going to be a lot of people who are excited to see another take on the World War II era because it's an era that a lot of people are interested in. So I'm sure the game will do well regardless. But the Twitter community seems to always complain about whatever the game is, so it is what it is. There's also been some pretty reliable leaks in the past week, actually even just a couple days ago, that was saying the game would be set in the 1950s with the Korean War. Now, the reason why I think these leaks could be kind of all over the place is because I don't really know exactly what kind of information they get, but I'm assuming most of the information would come from like maybe seeing screenshots or guns or like textures of models or characters or soldiers. And the 1950s is not that far from World War II in the 40s, so I'm sure maybe some people could have thought it was going to be World War II because they saw like an M1 Grand or something, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to assume it's going to be World War II, and maybe it's actually Korean War. I have no idea, but it seems like, yes, it will be in the past around that era from either the 40s or the 50s, which it's not that different, honestly. It's just going to change up what the campaign's going to be based around, but honestly, I assume it's going to be something very different than what we've seen before anyways. I don't think it's just going to be a repeat of World War II from 2017. I assume they're going to have a completely new story or a completely new part of the war if it is World War II, possibly the Pacific Theater. That would make the most sense to me. But people got to stop freaking out about the setting of the game or the titles, because most of the time that will not determine if the game is going to be good or not. Now, setting I can understand, right? Setting is important to a lot of people. It's important to me, honestly. In terms of the fact that I want diversity between the games, right? I don't want to have the same settings every year. And settings does not necessarily mean eras, because you could have a game that's set in the same era as another game, but still be a completely different setting. Like, you could have a modern game that is very different than the setting that Modern Warfare 2019 had. You just have to make it that way. You have to make the story a little bit different. You have to make the maps set a little bit different, locations. The only thing that's going to be similar is most of the equipment, the guns. That'll probably be mostly similar. But again, futuristic, you can be very different with that. Infinite Warfare is very different than Advanced Warfare in terms of the setting. So just because it's going to be World War II does not mean the maps are going to be like just the same looking locations as what we saw back in COD World War II in 2017. So people got to stop freaking out about that. And when it comes to titles, people rely on titles for these COD games way too much. They don't realize that titles mean jack shit. They are only there for marketing. Everyone always says, why are COD's titles so uncreative as of lately? Like, they've been really uncreative ever since Advanced Warfare. They have not had a creative title since Ghost. It's always been something Warfare or Modern Warfare or, a war like World War II or a Black Ops game. That's only been those, right? There's a simple reason for that. Marketing. If they call the game Call of Duty Red Strike or something. That was actually, I think, the name of one of the DLC packs. I'm pretty sure. Was it? Or was it First Strike? I don't know. Something like that, right? Sounds like a cool title. Maybe it would fit with the game. I have no idea. But it would not sell as well as calling the game Black Ops Cold War or Modern Warfare or World War II. Those are all going to sell more. That's why the titles are those ways. So everyone who keeps asking for Advanced Warfare 2, Ghosts 2, Infinite Warfare 2, we're not going to ever get those. Now, will they make a game that's similar to Infinite Warfare, similar to Ghosts, similar to Advanced Warfare again? Sure, they might. Maybe they'll even continue the stories somehow, I don't know. But they will not use those titles again because those games were not well received, especially Infinite Warfare. As much as I love Infinite Warfare, and I would love to see a sequel, because I love the campaign. I think it'd be really cool to even see that story continue. I'd love to see the zombies continue. I know it doesn't have to have the same title to still continue a game like that in some way. But even then, that setting, the futuristic era, we're not going to see that again for a while regardless. I don't know why anyone was expecting this next game to be any sort of futuristic game in any way, shape, or form. We went the past couple years prior to, Modern Warfare 2019, like at least 4 years of straight futuristic titles, well, other than World War II, of course, and people were pissed about it. They were angry. No one wanted futuristic stuff anymore. They didn't want the boost jumping. They didn't want the crazy, futuristic robots. They didn't want any of that crap. So much so that sales started dipping, player counts started dipping. Now, is it because of the setting? Is that the only reason why? Or was it just other reasons with the game? Maybe they weren't liking the game as a whole. Maybe it was mainly because of the boost jumping, not necessarily the setting. We don't know. But Activision, they don't really, look into the causation. They usually just look at the correlation. And they're looking at the correlation, oh, our sales are dipping as we keep doing futuristic stuff. Oh, but once we do World War II, the sales go up a little bit. And then we get Modern Warfare, and it becomes the best-selling Call of Duty of all time. And then Cold War comes out, and it's also one of the best-selling Call of Duties of all time. They know what they want to do now. They know they should stick with these past era or modern era games. They're not going to go back in the future, so stop expecting it. I would love it, though. Trust me, I agree with the people who want futuristic. I even want the boost jumping back. I do. But I completely understand why we're not going to see that again for a while. It's the community's fault. It's not their fault. They are listening to what people want. People do want these type of games. Now, there's also the discussion about, okay, well, I just don't want World War II. I prefer, Korean War, or even before that, World War I, or, I don't know, let's go to some other random-ass war. Let's do something in the modern era. I don't know, anything. The reason why World War II is pretty safe is, A, because it's probably one of the most popular wars out there. I'd say it is the most popular war that we know of, so it's automatically going to get more eyes than that. If you do some random war that no one really talks about, it's not going to get as much. World War I, it's just a little bit too far back for what COD is known for. I mean, COD has really not touched that, so they're probably just not going to bother at all. I mean, games that usually go back that far usually don't do that well. I mean, look at Far Cry. They decided to go into the primal times, and that game did terribly. Battlefield, as much as, people do, and I know a lot of people like Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. I know some people do. Those games did not do nearly as well as Battlefield 4. And the weird thing is, I see people saying they don't want this game to be within World War II because of the simple fact that we've gotten too many World War II CODs. I don't understand that, because we've had one World War II COD in the past 12 years. 12 years. Of course, in the beginning of Call of Duty, back in the early 2000s and, the mid-2000s, of course, there was a lot of World War II CODs there, but that was 15 years ago. And then since then, we had 2008 World at War, and then no World War II CODs for 9 years until 2017, where we finally got World War II, which was a good game. I like World War II. I think it's a fine game, but it didn't really show what World War II could present in everything, in terms of the campaign, in terms of multiplayer. It didn't really showcase what the war could really be like, you know what I mean? I feel like the campaign can do so many cooler things nowadays. Multiplayer, I just want it to be fun. I don't really care how gritty or realistic it is. I just want it to be fun, to be honest. So that's whatever. The setting really has nothing to do with multiplayer, to be honest. That's just how the guns are going to be and how the maps might look, but that's really it. And even 2017 with World War II, that was still 4 years ago. I would love to see a World War II game on the next-gen consoles and what they can do with the next-gen mechanics and graphics and such. I'm really looking forward to what they can do with that. Not just for campaign, but multiplayer, maybe zombies. I don't think we'll get zombies. I hope we do, but I really don't think. I think they're probably going to extend Cold War's zombie, season into a second season. I'll talk about that in another video, but I don't get why people are just dropping the game automatically. I see people saying, oh, in terms of gameplay, it's probably going to be really slow. Says who? You know, the setting doesn't determine how slow it's going to be. Yeah, there's probably going to be no boost jumping, obviously, but so what? So there's also been some other leaks from Tom Henderson specifically. He says, of course, it's Sledgehammer Games. It's going to be very gritty, likely to be controversial like Modern Warfare, but they also said Cold War was going to be a little controversial. And I don't really see much controversial stuff in Cold War when it comes to the campaign, but I don't know. Maybe they cut out some stuff. Of course, boots on the ground, guerrilla-like warfare, and a Warzone integration. Now, a lot of people are also talking about the Warzone integration and how they don't think it's going to work with World War II, and I don't really see why it wouldn't work. Like, the guns are World War II guns, but it's a video game. Like, people are like, oh, how can an M1 Garand compete against an M4? It's a video game. They can make the guns however powerful they want. They can easily make an M1 Garand outclass an M4 in any situation that they want. It's really not that hard to make the game that way. And people are like, oh, what about the gunsmith? We're not going to have any attachments. Says who? You can add a bunch of attachments. They would have to be, you know, they're not going to be like crazy like laser sights or like, you know, crazy scopes or anything. But you could still have a lot of different like grips or stocks for different weapons or like bayonets, grenade launchers. There's a lot of things, you know, suppressors. There's a lot of things you could still add on weapons. I mean, World War II had a decent amount of attachments. Just do the same thing, but with more different types of looking grips, just like Black Ops Cold War does. I mean, come on, it's not that hard. You don't need a million attachments. You could probably safely do at least 30 to 40 attachments with World War II guns. I don't think it'd be that hard. And I mean, how cool would that be? Imagine the PPSH in the gunsmith. I think that'd be awesome. But people just want to complain and bitch and moan about every little thing that happens in Call of Duty, and it's hilarious because I expected this to happen. I really, really did. I remember back when Modern Warfare first came out, I was saying we're probably just going to get, you know, past or modern games for the next couple years. And people are going to start complaining that they want Future back eventually. And it's already starting to happen, which is kind of more soon than I thought. But last thing I want to say is a lot of people also, like I said, were saying they wanted this game to be Modern Era. And to that I say, we're going to be getting Modern Warfare 2 or the Modern Warfare sequel or whatever in 2022 anyways. So I don't know why you'd want back-to-back modern games like that. Again, I want diversity in the settings. I don't really care what the setting is. I don't care if it's Unicorn Land. I don't care if it's literally a game that takes place within a real-life Monopolyville. I don't care as long as it's different per year, right? Once it goes by a couple years, it's like, okay, then we can have another game in that era, like Cold War. I don't want to see another Cold War game for at least another 4 to 5 years. That's how I want to see it, right? But then again, Cold War is very different. Of course, there's different eras within it, you know. We have the 80s within Cold War, so when I say that, I mean mainly the 80s. But if we had a, you know, Cold War game that took place in like the 60s, kind of like Black Ops 1 did, I'd be okay with that. I'd take that. There's a lot of things they can do, man, and I think people are kind of underestimating the creativity of the developers. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.